Hi everyone, it's Stephen here. In today's video, I want to share with you a costly investment property mistake that I made a couple of months ago now, in the hope this may help you if you encounter something similar. I'm not too proud to admit that this mistake cost me £73,000 in profit for zero work and in 30 days. You're probably thinking,
well, you're a noob, you know nothing about property, you know nothing about the housing market. This is probably your first or your second purchase.
But sadly no, I've been buying property for over 2 decades now in various countries and building up sizable property portfolios of residential and commercial real estate. I like to think that I've seen and probably done every creative strategy there is out there to buy property, but this one property investment deal, I got slack on it and I was punished for it. So if you want to learn from my mistake, stick around until the end to find out what I did, what I would do differently, the numbers on the deal if I'd have bought it, and the numbers on the deal based on the actual buyer. Will they make any money now that they've paid nearly 3 times what I was prepared to? The opportunity was a commercial to residential office, but it really looked like an end of terrace house. It's a simple 2 up, 2 down type of terraced house, but it had a big shop front window to it. So converting it back to residential use wouldn't be a problem. You could probably do it under PD rights. I was close to settlement on another commercial office tenanted investment property that I was buying, and this transaction had run into a couple of issues. And it was at this point that I was then put in touch with the seller direct, because he was really trying to close out the transaction and get us all together on the same page. He was trying to G up his solicitor, and he wanted me to G up my solicitor and just nut everything out and get it done in the next few weeks. And we got to talking about another small office that he wanted to sell. This is this 2 up, 2 down in a terrace property. So he had the idea that he was thinking about maybe putting it to auction. It was pretty run down, it'd just been used as storage. It needed everything doing to it, including a new roof. I was interested in buying at the right price. I hadn't looked at it, it was all sight unseen. So I just worked out on the phone. He said to me, this is what I'd like for it. He wanted 50 originally. And he said, overall, I'm looking to make 900,000 on all of these properties, these 2 properties. So I said, well, look, I'll give you 45, there's your 900,000, and you don't have to do the hassle of putting it into auction and waiting for all that. Our solicitor's already engaged because they're already engaged on the other property. It'd be a separate transaction as I was getting a loan on the commercial property that was tenanted, and I didn't want to confuse stuff with the lenders on that one. And this one would just be a cash purchase for the 45 grand. He was happy with that. He had another partner that they'd have to check with. He went and checked with him, came back and confirmed via email that that's all good as well. They're happy to sell it to me at £45,000. So this was a straightforward off-market purchase, as I was connected directly with the seller, had the solicitors engaged, and off we went in our merry way. So after about another 30 days, the commercial investment property that I'm buying, that settled okay. I asked my solicitor to check on a fence on this, on the small office building that we were buying. It was at that point then, a couple of days after that, the seller came back to me with an email telling me that the fence had been put up. He sent me a nice picture of it, and I was amazed to then see in the next paragraph that he'd said that he was now going to be putting the property up for auction, as he just didn't know what he was going to get for it. And I guess he wanted to see if he'd take a punt and see what he could get. He said he'd put the guide price up at £45,000, and he offered me to go and bid on it still. And I thought, stuff that, am I going to be bidding on this and upping the price for you? So I went to the auction site anyway, just to have a look at the fee structure, and the seller's out of pocket on nothing, which is what I thought. And you know, they get reimbursed for the searches, their legal costs, and also you have to pay the auctioneer a buyer's premium, for those that you don't know about auctions. So the price that you pay isn't the end price that you're actually paying. So with this particular property, there was an additional just over £3,000 worth of fees that you'd have to pay even if you got it for 45 grand. So already I was 3 grand down based on what I was going to be paying. And on top of that, I've got to pay for my own legal fees with my solicitor to do all the transaction as well. So the day of the auction came and gone. I did nothing. I didn't go and bid on it or anything like that, but I did go and check the result, as I was interested to see whether it sold. Did it sell for more? If so, how much? So have a punt. This was £45,000 as the guide price. In the current market, what do you think it went for? You're wrong. It sold for £118,000. Amazing. I just couldn't believe it. I was thinking, he's made there, did nothing to it, It was a building that he was prepared to sell me for £45,000. He's made an additional £73,000 doing nothing to it other than putting it up for auction, gets all his fees paid for. So you can see why he did this. It makes total sense for him. And likewise, unbeknownst to me, if I'd have definitely bought it, I could have just flipped it, put it up to auction and made a £73,000 profit, just like that, with no work in 30 days. So I wouldn't have thought that it would have gone for 118 grand. It looked in a bad state. It needed a new roof. The roof was kind of hanging off on one side of it. And so good luck to the buyer that's bought it. So the buyer's actually going to pay for this property £121,020.56 plus their own legal costs, say of another £700-800. So rounding it up is about £122,000. This property's cost them, which I had agreed and could have got for £45,000. So we're going to cover the buyer's figures in a minute just to see if they're making any money with paying 122 grand for this property. So my strategy for this, before I thought about flipping it at auction, would be to actually convert it to residential under PD rights, and it's just a 2 up, 2 down kind of end of terrace property with a small garden out the back, more of a patio. No off-street parking, it's on a main busy road, but it would rent out at about £775 per calendar month. But here's my figures, and this is what I was thinking before it went to auction. So I was going to be paying 46 grand cash for it. I'm including my legal fees in that. And it was going to cost me about £40,000 to put right, new roof, new windows, new everything, electric, kitchen, bathroom. Everything needed doing to this property. The windows at the back have been bricked up, needed new windows, them reopening. 40 grand might have been on the good side, you know, because he was telling me this, so I just budgeted that in it. So it's 86 grand down. And then I just quickly had a look on Rightmove what they could go for, and I saw one sold across the street for 140. So used that as a worst case scenario because I couldn't, everything else was slightly more than that, but that was something that had just sold recently. So that's my benchmark. So I thought, okay, there's some money in it. 86 grand to 140, there's something there. So how I looked at this is I'd refinance it once I've rented it out. And if it valued up at £140,000, I'd then be able to pull out about £112,000, 80% loan to value on a buy-to-let mortgage. And then I'd have no cash left in the deal because I'd have put down 86 grand, 112 out, means my return's infinite, I've got no cash left in the deal, plus there's 20% equity in that. So it's a pretty good buy if I was able to have pulled that off. So you can see flipping at auction would have actually achieved a greater amount of profit than just me doing a convert to residential, going through the hassle and the aggro of rehabbing it, spending the months doing that with a contractor, with a builder. It wouldn't have delivered me 73 grand worth of profit. It would have been quicker just to flip it at auction, but you never know what it's going to go for at auction. Someone was prepared to pay 118 grand, 122 all in for this property, which I would never have thought it would have gone for that. Let's have a deeper dive then on the buyer and why he was prepared to pay nearly £122,000 for this particular property. So I had a look on Rightmove, and these are the different houses that have been sold and are still available in this close vicinity.
So this first house then is the house that I used as my benchmark, which was sold for £140,000. This is the lowest priced property that I could find, and it was the closest to this actual property as well, if we just look at the street map here. It's in good condition, it's a 2-bed mid-terrace, and it's the same size and it's in the same street. So the next property is £180,000. This is in a more quiet road, more residential. It's a 2-bed semi-detached. This one sold recently for £180,000. I'd say this is a far superior home. It's got off-street parking. It's a larger size home. It's got a garden as well in very good condition. Next we've got a 2-bed semi-detached in a residential street. This one sold for £175,000. Quite a residential area. It's got off-street parking and a large garden. Similar size, but it's got bay windows. Next again, we've got this property that's available for sale. It's £180,000. It's on a main road, like this one's on a bit of a busy road. It's a 2-bed mid-terrace. The asking price is £180,000 for it. It's been refurbished to a high standard. It does also have rear off-street parking and a deck garden, so I'd say this is slightly better from that point of view, but it's not sold. Next one, we've got a mid-terrace for £160,000, slightly larger, better location, with a nice large garden, average condition, and they're asking £160,000. This one hasn't been sold yet.
So looking at the different types of properties, I would say max you could probably get for this one is £160,000. So a bit more of an improvement on my view of £140,000, but either way, they've paid 122 grand, right? Add 40,000 for the work to be done, we're already at £162,000. And you can only then value it up at 160. So the housing market is definitely going to be cooling soon because the lenders these days are not valuing up properties as high as they were before, and they're actually probably undervaluing some properties. So properties like this, where it's at the lower end of the property spectrum, is it going to value up to that higher amount? Is it going to go above £160,000? Is a lender going to take that risk on this type of property on a main road with commercial properties next to it? If I was bidding for it, I'd conservatively say my max price is 160. Why would I go up to 122? Even if this person was prepared to do it all themselves, homes under the hammer style, and just, you know, pay for raw materials, I think there's at least 20 grand of raw materials to be done there. Plus, they're not likely to go and do the new roof themselves unless they think they can just patch it up. But how long is that going to last for before you actually need to do a new roof? So sooner or later, you're going to have to buy a new roof. For me, buying at this amount, I would see that there's better opportunities somewhere else where you can make a bigger return with less effort, less risk, and less aggravation. So what would I do differently if I was able to take a time machine, take me back to that point in time when we agreed that it was 45 grand and he confirmed it in writing to me, we were good to go. What I should have done is gone and exchanged on this property ASAP and got it legally binding that we're exchanged, and just had a settlement whenever I wanted to, 30 days, 60 days, whenever. But once you've exchanged, you're legally bought the building. There's nothing, he can't then suddenly decide to put it into auction or anything like that. We had it agreed, our solicitors were engaged. I should have acted fast on it, but I was in the weeds on this other one and it took away my focus off of this other one, as I thought, okay, that one's in the bag, done, I'll get to that one after this one. I was trying to do things sequentially. I should have just got it fast-tracked and that would have been it. 73 grand profit, boof, like that. But I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have gone to auction. I would have just kept it and rented it out. So the second mistake is that I left it for too long. I let them think about it. I let them think, okay, we've got that 45 grand in the bag now with Stephen, but this auction thing was probably nagging at them. I wonder if we could get a better deal. They probably spoke to a few agents and they said, yeah, you probably could get more than that. You might even be able to get double that. Little did they know they could nearly treble that amount of money at auction. I don't think even they would have thought that. Looking at the documents on the auction site, I could see when they initiated their searches, and for me, it was at that 30-day mark. So if I'd have sorted this out within that 30 days, that I was busy doing the other transaction, but I needed to parallel this one, if I'd have got it after that one, because it seems like as soon as that first transaction done, they then thought, right, let's put this one to auction now. This one isn't locked in with Stephen. He's bought that one. There's no more commitment there. We don't matter if we piss him off because he's not going to pull out of that one, because the other one was a lot more valuable to them. If I'd have pulled out of that one, they'd have lost the whole 855 grand I was putting into that one. So, there was an incentive there to kind of keep me happy, keep me on board, and I could have exchanged on this one quite easily. So it's kind of difficult with an off-market purchase. How much do you want to push? How much don't you want to push? But when it's a good deal, and it's a good deal, just because it's off-market, don't think, and you've kind of secured it, don't think that it's not going to disappear from you. You kind of need to lock it in. And the only way to lock it is to exchange contracts on it. So that's the biggest lesson. I should have done that sooner. So if you want to learn my strategy on how I plan to go from 0 to 10 buy-to-let properties in 36 months, starting with £30,000, go and watch this video now. This property, this transaction was meant to be my first buy-to-let property using this exact strategy. Didn't quite work out, but keep watching. You'll find out what I do next. Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.